In this video, we will be interviewing kids about population in the world today.
We're also trying to raise awareness about people that are in poverty and extreme situations.
With your help, we can make the world a better place.
Enjoy.
What rights do people have right from birth?
The freedom of speech and what they think.
The freedom of speech and thought.
Where do you picture yourself in 5 years?
I picture myself in 5 years in high school as a junior.
In the military and having a well-paying job.
Do you think you're going to have a job?
Most likely, I will most likely have a job.
What's your favorite food?
I like pizza.
Probably tacos.
What if you can never have that ever again?
I'd be terribly upset.
I'd be very upset.
What would you be doing if you didn't go to school or didn't get an education?
I'd be sitting on the couch watching TV, eating potato chips.
What would you be doing if you didn't go to school and didn't get an education?
Laying on my couch.
Have you ever heard of human trafficking?
No, I haven't.
No.
What do you think it is?
I'm not sure.
I think it's a buildup of humans.
The basic definition of human trafficking is modern day slavery. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been away from your parents before?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you feel about that?
I was a bit homesick.
Have you ever been away from your parents?
Yes,
How did you feel about that?
I felt pretty good.
Were you sad?
A little bit, but not too much.
How about scared?
Not at all.
What about if you were away from them for a long period of time?
I think I'd feel okay with that.
Well, there are a lot of people, a lot of kids in this world that are away from their parents from a very young age and for a very long time.
I'm confused. Is this about global warming? It's not money, what is it? I just like clean water, that's important.
Alright, in the next video that we're going to show you, there's a person called John Green doing it. Do you know who that is?
Yeah, he's the author for Fault in Our Stars, right?
Yep.
Good morning, Hank. It's Tuesday, so amid all the misery of human life, it's easy to forget that there is much worth celebrating. And as we begin a new year, I thought it would be nice to start it off with some good news. Like, for instance, divorce rates in the U.S. have gone down every year since 2006 and are currently at their lowest level since 1970. Then there's pregnancy, which from what I can gather is not fun. The global rate of unintended pregnancy has declined dramatically since 1995, when 69 out of 1,000 women had unintended pregnancies. In 2008, it was 55 in 1,000 women, which is good news because unintended pregnancies can have all kinds of health consequences for infants and for mothers, including increased infant mortality. Which reminds me that infant mortality is at an all-time low. Worldwide, it has dropped from 46 deaths per 1,000 births to 35 just in the last 8 years. Now, of course, you're worried that we're gonna have like 70 gajillion humans on Earth, but in fact, when infant mortality declines, families have fewer children. So decreasing infant mortality actually helps the overall population of humans stabilize. Which is good because there are already too many of you driving up the prices to playoff tickets from a hometown Indianapolis Colts going to the playoffs. More good news. But in more important good news, absolute poverty is down worldwide. In fact, the United Nations estimates that poverty has decreased more in the last 50 years than it did in the previous 500. So much for the idea that colonization is good for the colonized. Adjusted for inflation, the number of people living on less than $1.25 a day has decreased from 43% in 1990 to 20% today. Now, most of that is due to gains in China and India and Brazil. However, sub-Saharan Africa, along the world's poorest region, has been growing much faster than the world economy for the past decade. Now, inequality of wealth remains a huge problem around the world, but in the vast majority of countries, the poor are becoming less poor. Also, there is good news for those of us in the developed world. In the United States, cancer mortality rates have dropped by 20% in the last 25 years. Why? Well, mostly because people quit smoking, or died from smoking. But also we have better treatments and screenings for colon and breast cancers and a bunch of others. Then there's the internet, which is reaching more people at higher speeds. In the US, internet speeds were up 27% in 2013 over 2012. In fact, they were up all around the world, from Guatemala, 75% increase, to Thailand, 32%. So it's easier than ever for people to stay in touch and to collaborate. It's also easier than ever to visit one another, while being herded like cattle into a steel cylinder and rocketed through the air remains one of the least pleasant experiences that a human being can have. Airfares have dropped by almost 50% since 1985. You can also fly to more places than ever before, and it's never been safer. Speaking of safe traveling, let's talk about cars. For every 100 million miles driven in the US in 2011, there was 1.1 vehicular fatality. In 1980, that number was 3.5. If you take 1980 as your baseline, safer cars and safer drivers saved 60,000 American lives in 2013. That's pretty great. Also, things are getting better for non-human animals. Well, at least the ones that we've domesticated. Back in the 1990s, 17 million cats and dogs were euthanized per year in the US. Now that number's closer to 5 million. What else? Well, the fight against malaria is working, with mortality rates down nearly 50% in the last 10 years. More girls are attending school around the world, and the literacy rate for women in their 20s has risen from 79% in 1990 to 87% today. And in almost every country on Earth, you are more likely to live to be old than you were 10 years ago, you are less likely to be hungry, and you are likely better connected to those you love. Hank, 10 years ago, we couldn't have had this conversation because there was no YouTube. The Nerdfighter community couldn't have raised more than $750,000 for charity because there was no Nerdfighter community. Now, of course, this progress is tenuous and much of it is unsustainable with current technology, but it's also real and it's worth celebrating. So here's to a new year, Hank. May it really and truly be the best one yet. Happy New Year! Hank, I'll see you on Friday.
How did you feel about those videos?
I felt like they passed over a message
And what message was that?
to help the world and how it can get better.
And how people are in these awful situations?
Yes.
Okay. So what can you do to help the people in these situations?
I can donate things to them, like money and food.
Okay. What if I told you that there are millions of people in the US that are in poverty? Would you believe me?
Yes.
What can you do to help people in these situations?
I'm not sure.
Alright, well, one thing that you could do is to buy fair trade products. And buying fair trade products assures that workers get a fair amount of money and are in great conditions when they're making these products. What if I told you that there are millions of people in the US that are in poverty? Would you believe me?
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Garen Woods, and I'm in 7th grade, and I go to Thornton Academy Middle School.
Hi, I'm Olivia Parody. I'm in 6th grade and I go to Thornton Academy Middle School.